Ina Garten wrote a pandemic comfort food cookbook, so I cooked 3 recipes to see what comfort food looks like in her world and how that translates to a regular home kitchen. One of them involves goat cheese and enchiladas, and I have some serious thoughts about it. I'm the cookbook reviewer. I actually cook from cookbooks and tell you if they're worth owning. Before we jump in, here's how I score recipes. I score recipes on 2 things: outcome and CPR, cussing per recipe. Outcome score is straightforward. How did it taste? Would I make it again? That's 1 out of 10. CPR, cussing per recipe, is my difficulty score. And it's not just, can you technically do this? It's how frustrated are you while doing it? Because there's a difference between a recipe that takes time but is pretty chill versus one that has you swearing at your mandolin at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. Low CPR equals easy, minimal stress. High CPR, you're going to need to crack open that bottle of wine. And a recipe can have a great outcome but a terrible CPR, or the other way around. Both matter when you're deciding if something's actually worth making. For anyone not familiar with Ina Garten, she's the barefoot Contessa. She has an interesting background. She worked in the White House. Then she had a crazy pivot and bought a specialty food store in the Hamptons called Barefoot Contessa in 1978. She had no formal culinary training. She just kind of went for it and sent it. She ran that store for almost 20 years before transitioning to writing cookbooks. Now she has a Food Network show, 13 best-selling cookbooks, and iconic catchphrases like "store-bought is fine" and "how easy is that?" Her whole brand is elegant but accessible, recipes that look impressive without being stressful. She's very good at making you feel like you can pull off dinner party level food without having a meltdown. Modern Comfort Food came out in October 2020, peak pandemic. Everybody was home, stress baking their sourdough, and looking for literally any form of comfort. In the intro, she talks about how cooking really delicious comfort food helps everyone at the table feel happy and satisfied, and asks, isn't that how we want the people we love to feel? She also reflects on past crisis moments. After 9/11, people told her they went out and made her outrageous brownies. During the financial crisis, restaurants struggled, but fast food places thrived. And as she wrote this book, we were in the middle of a global pandemic. She didn't know how it would shake out, but she knew that people wanted comfort. They wanted food that felt grounding and satisfying. She says many of these recipes are old-fashioned American food people remember from childhood, and the modern part comes from finding new ways to serve familiar dishes. The book has 85 recipes across cocktails, lunch, dinner, vegetables and sides, dessert, and breakfast. When I think comfort food, I think about things like chocolate cake, mac and cheese, roasted chicken, the classics. This book's version of comfort food is a little more elevated. You've got banana rum trifle and Maine lobster stew, alongside some of those classics that I would also imagine being there, like enchiladas, fajitas, and chocolate chip cookies. I tested 3 recipes to see what the book actually delivers. First up, baked cod with garlic and herb Ritz crumbs. I used haddock instead because cod is wormy and I absolutely refuse to cook cod. Honestly, the fish type doesn't really matter here. You could use tilapia, haddock, halibut. It's very forgiving. This had a CPR score of 1. This was ridiculously easy. Fish in the pan with wine and lemon, topped with buttery Ritz crumbs, bake. The hardest part was crushing the crackers, and I just threw them in a Ziploc bag and hit them with a rolling pin. Outcome, 9 out of 10. This was genuinely great. The fish cooked perfectly and the cracker topping was excellent. One note, just a reminder, Ritz crackers are already salty, and they're pretty salty. I was on the borderline of almost using too much salt. The crackers are already doing a lot of the work, so don't overdo it. And then, of course, never forget to squeeze that fresh lemon on top right before eating. That's what makes this dish sing. And the crumbs that fall into the wine lemon sauce at the bottom, she said this was totally okay, and my oh my, these were fight over it good. If you're scared of cooking fish, this recipe alone is worth the price of the book. Next, skillet-roasted chicken and potatoes. This starts with a buttermilk brine that needs 4 to 12 hours, so you do need to plan ahead. I set a phone reminder to start mine so I didn't forget. This had a CPR score of 4 with a mandolin, probably more like a 7 without one. I have a mandolin, so slicing the potatoes thin was super easy. Without one, this is gonna take time and you need them thin. If you don't get them thin enough, the potatoes aren't gonna cook all the way through because they're too thick. One negative or one downside of this dish was the pan sticking. Even with all that chicken fat, my potatoes glued themselves to the sides, and cleaning took a solid 15 minutes and some soaking. Next time, I'm either gonna really grease that pan or I'm gonna line the pan with foil. The outcome was 7 out of 10. The chicken was really good. The buttermilk brine and Dijon mixture made it flavorful and tender. Unfortunately, I didn't get the crispy skin that I was hoping for, and I cooked my chicken well over 165 because I like it a little bit more well done. The potatoes got super crispy and delicious, and the chicken was pretty delicious. The brine method, I'll absolutely use that again. The potatoes were good, but a little bit more effort than I usually want on a weeknight. This dish feels like it's more of a weekend or special occasion recipe. Finally, cheesy chicken enchiladas. And I need to say this up front. This is not a traditional enchilada recipe. This is her version. CPR score of 3. Most of the cussing came from grating a lot of cheese. Mountains of cheese. My hands were cramping. I followed the recipe and used goat cheese in the filling, even though my family doesn't love it. And here's the thing, it's more expensive and I couldn't really taste it in the final dish. My family couldn't either. Also, I did change the recipe a little bit, and for the topping, I used a Mexican cheese blend, Monterey Jack, cheddar, asadero, queso, quesadilla cheese, because that's what my family likes, and I needed to kind of offset that goat cheese that I was adding. So maybe that's why I didn't taste the goat cheese, because I added that Mexican cheese blend. I'm not too sure. Either way, the goat cheese really didn't do anything for me. Also, I had a lot of filling, and I was only able to make 6 tortillas because there was so much filling. I had to kind of cram them all in the 9x13, and they were shoulder to shoulder. They were almost more like burritos than enchiladas. But overall, outcome of 6 out of 10. With my cheese filling on top, they were tasty, and then I also topped them with avocado and sour cream, which helped a lot. These are good, just a little different. If you're expecting traditional enchiladas, this just isn't it. But if you want a cheesy baked chicken and tortilla situation with Ina's touch, they work. Next time, I'd skip the goat cheese and just use the Mexican blend throughout. Overall, Modern Comfort Food is a really solid cookbook. The baked fish is brilliant, approachable, foolproof, and delicious. The chicken and potatoes have great flavor, and the brine is a technique I'll definitely use again. It just requires a little bit more planning and cleanup than my typical comfort meal. The enchiladas are good, just not traditional, and the goat cheese didn't really add much for the extra cost. Everything I made tasted good. Some recipes shine more than others, but nothing was amiss. I also want to say I'm a huge Ina fan. I grew up watching her, I've read her memoir, and I really find her inspiring. This is a really good cookbook, maybe even a great cookbook for the right person. For me personally, I'll be writing down that fish recipe and passing the book along to a friend who'll use this a lot more than I will. Not because it's bad, it's just not exactly my everyday cooking style. Would I recommend it? Yes, especially if you love Ina's approach and want elevated comfort food. Just know that comfort here sometimes means planning ahead or using specialty equipment. If your idea of comfort includes butter, lemon, cream, cheddar, and a drink, you'll love this. If comfort means fast, light, and low cleanup, you might be picking and choosing. Now for the actual scoring. I rate cookbooks on 2 components, book quality and recipe outcomes. Book quality looks at things like ingredient accessibility, instruction clarity, photography, layout, reliability, and writing voice. For this book, that comes out to 9.2 out of 10. The 3 recipes I tested averaged 7.3 out of 10. My final score weighs recipe outcomes at 70% because I think that's the most important part of a book, and book quality at 30%, which gives Modern Comfort Food a 7.9 out of 10. Quick note though, I'm still figuring out my scoring system, so I might be weighing book quality too heavily early on as I learn more from testing different books. Also, this score could be skewed depending on which recipes I happen to try. Maybe I tested the best ones and the rest are duds, or maybe I picked ones that just sounded good to me. Just something to keep in mind. That's my review of Modern Comfort Food by Ina Garten. Have you cooked from this book? What worked for you? Let me know in the comments, or if there's another cookbook you'd like me to review, also let me know in the comments. If you want more honest cookbook reviews, subscribe and see you in the next one.